So, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, President Alice, distinguished guests, and fellow members of the engineering community. Welcome to the panel discussion. Earlier this morning until now, we have a very enlightening introduction of the blue sky in respect of sustainability, innovations, and the way how we could engineer the future. Until the last few minutes, we were shocked by Dave with his historical review of the rather micro, from the macro to micro, and yet a very important aspect that we can't forget, and that's safety. All the five gentlemen have delivered their speech earlier, and it needs no introduction from me. And they are Simon, Michael, Dave, Richard, and James. And they are from the IET, IMAC-E, SIPS, and also a few fellow institutions. And of course, Richard is the man outstanding. And with your treasure of experience in infrastructure, there's a lot we can share, right? Okay. So to make the best use of time, I would like to invite Michael to start first, because he started earlier this morning. And I have the gentleman agreement with James to do a little bit of sum up by the end of the panel discussion. If there is a little bit of time that we can spare, then we might be able to take a few questions. It all depends how long fellow panel members would spend. All right? Okay, Michael, your time.
So thank you very much, Frank, and also Alice Williams for inviting me to come over from Hong Kong. Actually, and not a secret, but just to let you know that when Alice told me about 2 months ago, right, that Hong Kong IE will lead delegations to visit London to conduct an international conference. I volunteered to her that I'll be very much like to come over here to share some of our, I would say that's success examples in implementing smart and green infrastructure developments in Hong Kong. So that's why I'm here today, and share with you some of my department's cases on how we, through embracing innovations and technologies, we will be able to engineer the future. Okay, taking into account that we engineers will be what engineers can accomplish. Okay, because particularly in today's world, in particular in Hong Kong, when we are facing a very serious and aging workforce and also declining productivity in the constructions, we have been accused, but probably for many years, that our construction costs in Hong Kong has been very high, and the construction time very long. So that's why the Hong Kong government has been working very hard in the past years, and to see opportunities to make use of innovation technologies to help us, okay, to enhance or speed up the construction costs. I mean, not to speed up the construction time, as well as to reduce the construction costs. And at the same time, equally important, that we hope that through this embracing innovation technologies, we will be able to not help, actually, contribute to carbon emissions and through this innovation technologies. So I hope that through the cases that I share with all of you, those attending this conference in person today, and those who are attending the conference online, we will be able to at least demonstrate to the audience that what we engineers can help, okay, to contribute to the sustainable development of the society. And I'm looking forward, actually, to more collaborations with our counterparts in the UK and all around the globe in our pursuit to seek, again, to embrace innovations and technologies in our pursuits to make our world, not just Hong Kong, to a world a more sustainable and resilient city to live, work, and play. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Michael, for sharing with us your thoughts. And Richard, you talk about the 106 trillion worth of infrastructure in the years to come, right? And the amount of financial resources and talent needed for it. What would you suggest for the global leaders to take if we are going to make it realized in the years or in decades to come?
Thank you very much, Frank. I was reflecting on all of the presentations that we've heard this morning. The amazing examples, Michael, that you gave of the things that you're doing in Hong Kong, the way in which the UK is now leading in terms of aspects of the energy transition that you spoke about, Simon, Dave, your examples of the research, the understanding of where something needs to be done better, and all of that in the context of everything that you said, James, at the beginning about the responsibility and the opportunity that lies on engineers everywhere. And my reflection is this. We are holding that Ming vase, you know, we're holding, my Ming vase is the world, right? We are collectively, as humanity, as this representative group of the 8.2 billion of us rising to 9 billion of us, we have this very precious thing in our hands. And if you step away from all of the geopolitical noise and conflict, the truth is that we're all in this together. And one of the things that I think is really powerful is where you have bodies and groups of individuals that are brought together, for example, by the various institutions represented here today, who are able to allow us to overcome some of those differences that are sometimes overemphasized in the world and recognize that we're all in it together and that we all have something to learn from each other. What I have done this morning is I have learnt from the presentations of some of the further amazing things that are being done in Hong Kong. I've also learnt some things that I didn't know about things that we're doing here in Britain. We are probably privileged in these particular two communities to have a wealth of really, really strong engineering excellence, and in many ways quite strong governments in terms of their ability to see, whether it's in terms of the 2030 net zero energy generating target here in the UK, or whether it's in terms of all of the investments that have been done in Hong Kong around technology adoption in infrastructure. Just to take two examples, we're quite privileged to have that base of capability and foresight. But this is not true across the whole world. And there are many, many parts of the world that are deeply struggling because they do not have the capability, the resources, sometimes the vision, sometimes the government action to be able to do everything that we all need to do collectively. So my reflection, Frank, is that I think the more that we can do as individuals to share, and the more that we can do through the institutions and other communities that we are involved in to take best practice, to take understanding of amazing things that have been done in particular countries or communities, the more we can do to share that, the greater the possibility that we will accelerate the transitions that the world needs to see in order to protect this Ming globe. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Richard. Indeed, we need to work together because on the stage, we have all the prominent professional institutions here already. So if we work together, I'm sure that we have a way out. And by that, we are all lighted up with electricity here in this hall. So Simon, you mentioned about the 2030 clean energy target, right? I was, impressed by the word clean. But then when our fellow counterpart from the Energy Institute mentioned, they talk about green, okay? So there must be a meaning with that target, 2030 green energy. You say clean energy, right? Okay.
It's been referred to as clean energy,
Yes.
and it's the result of, I think, a little bit of a political maturity journey by the government. So I think before they had spoken to the engineers, they wanted to entirely decarbonise Great Britain's electricity by 2030.
Yes.
The engineering efforts that the professional institutions, together with the Royal Academy of Engineering, delivered, really said, that's a dumb target. Mm-hmm. You are not going to be able to do that with any level of credibility, and even if you did, it would be at astronomically high cost, and that would be a very poor investment, because beyond 2050, a lot of that investment would end up getting stranded, right? So there would be no purpose in trying to do that, because the real outcome is decarbonisation of the whole economy over a longer time period. So the term clean power was coined to allow a framing around a radical reduction of carbon intensity in electricity generation and production, which I think, as I said, was about essentially 5% of the energy of the electricity coming from gas-fired sources, unabated gas-fired sources. So it was a way of allowing the politicians to get their narrative and get their targets, which are very, very important in the political world, whilst still trying to come up with something which was, I have to say, vaguely deliverable in an engineering sense, because it's extremely challenging.
Right. So I get it that the United Kingdom government is trying to work on nuclear power, right? Still, yes. So how is it going? Can you share a little bit of information about it?
Well, there's a range of things going on, as there are around the world, and aware, of course, of Greater China's enormous nuclear prowess and ability to deliver at pace and scale, which is we envy. It's fantastic. But here, there is one large project at a relatively advanced stage of construction.
Right.
And in Clean Power 2030, we have a baseline assumption that one of the 2 units of that project will be generating by 2030. Whether it makes that or not, we'll see. There is a further large project which essentially now has the building blocks in place to proceed, and a lot of work happening on the ground. Right. And then we have the whole question of small modular nuclear and advanced modular nuclear, which we like to think of as being for the longer term, because there is clearly a maturity journey to do to get to scale that with that in many, many different ways. However, there's this data center wildcard, which I think is very interesting, in that there is an alignment coming or observable between the big tech companies who are very, very hungry for generation to supply data centers, and the idea that through tech you could transform nuclear, remembering that those tech companies and even some individuals in the States have incredibly deep pockets, and they love the idea of achieving radical acceleration of a new technology, because it's what they've grown up doing. Now, I don't think maybe they understand the complexities of doing that with nuclear. However, I think there is a willingness to put investment into it, and we might see SMR and AMR coming forward rather more quickly than maybe previous assumptions of only a year or 2 ago. So I think that's very much an area to watch. And if what that does is deliver a highly replicable, scalable nuclear delivery model that is all about building things in factories and installing them on sites, then potentially that's a way of getting to scale in generation at a at pace. And so there are some tools in our toolbox that can help us here, and I think that could be one of them.
Right. Yeah. Because in last month, I went to visit the SMR construction site in Hainan Island. It's going to be operational sometime next year.
Next year?
Yep.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Okay, hopefully.
Wow.
Yeah, so there is well, so I would say that there will be a huge opportunity for countries across the world to just look into it. Germany is doing very well as well.
Well, and there are projects starting to happen all over the world, and that's all hugely encouraging, I think.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Well, let's get connected and see how we can do it together, right? So, it's not the least, it must be the most important part about safety, because engineering is all about safety, right? Like James started with the word saying that what's not created by God is created by engineer. And what you said is that without engineer, we can't engineer the future, right? So, apart from escalator safety, being the president-elect of SIPS, right? So what would be your advice as to how, the Chartered Institute of Building Service Engineers and the rest of the profession could work together to make the world a better place to live?
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Because, SIPSI, we have so many different skill sets. Data, lighting, heating, venting, lifts, dare I say it. And we all come together. And it's about collaboration, I think. As engineers, we've got to understand different skills. Structural engineers, I can't put a lift into a shaft without a structural engineer giving me a structure that will take it. I can't put a cable car over the Thames without a structural engineer giving me towers to attach my cable car to. So it's about us working together and acknowledging that we all have pockets of skills, that the sum of those parts when they come together are a magnificent thing. And I think this morning I was absolutely inspired, Michael, by your presentation. I know nothing about bridges. I need to ask this question. So that bridge is so much lighter than it was. There was no mention of longevity. Is there any longevity expectation of that bridge? Will it last the same as it will? So there we go. Yeah. So I know nothing about bridges. I was dying to ask that. But another thing, my point was we need engineers, to engineer the future. You showed us a superb presentation of what's going on in Hong Kong. Now, we struggle in the UK to get engineers to join our industry. Does Hong Kong have the same issue? I can't imagine so. If you show a presentation like that, I'm going, wow, yeah, I'll have some of that. But we really struggle to get engineers to join us. And then I'm getting into dangerous territory here. There's a difference between an engineer and a technician, in my view. Those that engineer, obviously design and build, and those technicians keep it going and maintain, and there's an important differential between there for me. Yeah, but still we're not attracting people. Why? Why are we not attracting? And that's where all the PEIs need to get together and have a real boost on making our what you showed. I'm sitting there going, wow, that was great. I wish my son's a chartered surveyor. I wish I'd shown him that 10 years ago. Yeah. My wife's an accountant. We won't go there.
Well, Dave, in Hong Kong, we are basically taking the modular construction also for lift and escalator.
Yeah.
They were made in the factories and transport to the site for assembly.
Yeah.
So basically, we can build for a pedestrian walkway, we build the structure with pre-installed facilities, And then we bring along the guy rail, the lift car, and all the accessories,
Yeah.
and install it overnight. The next morning, it will be up and running, provided it was being tested for safety.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I mean, modular construction is not new. It's been around for a number of years. The accuracy and then issues with different building fabric as well become a problem for lifts.
Right.
Compressed linear timber has been construction we've been using in the UK, but we're seeing building movement that causes problems then with alignment of lifts and landings and that sort of thing. So again, it's about the interdisciplinary working between different types of engineer.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, thank you. So, James, we have to come to the most problematic part. How are we going to attract the younger generation to join the engineering profession? Firstly, to enroll into a curriculum of engineering or the like, and then become a member of the 4 major PEIs here on stage, right?
Okay. I think with all tricky questions, politicians send them back, don't they? And then say, I think this is over to you. But no, the good news, and the BBC runs the National Careers Week, and that was in the spring. An engineer was the second most desirable career for 14 to 17-year-olds in the UK. And that's staggering, really. And I think that's testament to a lot of work that's happened from many, many different groups, showcasing the variety of roles that there are within the profession. And I think there's a great opportunity, and that's raising awareness. And then when I talked earlier about educating the public, that's also educating parents, and people take advice from people they know and trust. And they trust and know their parents, and they know their friends. And so if you can start to raise that broad public awareness, you raise the awareness of the opportunity of engineering as a career. And I really meant what I was saying in terms of the feedback that we get when we talk to school-age children. They're really fearful of sustainability and some of the problems that we've heard about here. And they can have agency, and they're not driven by the paycheck as much as they want to have an impact and a positive impact through their career. And I think if we start to sell engineering as that opportunity, we're going to continue to attract great people, as well as the presentations and things that we see. The innovation within engineering is incredible. And I mean, it makes me want to be an engineer and out there doing these kinds of things, because it's really exciting, isn't it? And that's tangible benefits to society. And I think that's, as we said, multidisciplinary. The events like this, if I may just step back, I think this has been a fantastic event. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope people online have enjoyed it. And it's different perspectives. I think you talked about it. We've all learned something here. We've all taken something away. I have a better understanding of the problems. I have a better understanding of some of the solutions. I feel better informed. I have a bigger peer network and group of people who I can talk to about different things. So I think all in all, this has been an excellent event to allow us to collaborate, share knowledge. But this is not just today. I feel like this is a stepping stone to further discussions that we can have across different engineering institutions. And we talked earlier, so many of these challenges are global. Everything that we've talked about is global. And the knowledge is global. Talent is global. And it's about how we can continue to have these, I guess, cross-border discussions that will allow us to unlock the solutions that society really needs.
Yes, thank you very much, James. Because it's indeed a global industry in terms of engineering, in terms of mobility of the various professions. Engineering is certainly one of them, without barrier and border. And that's why we have been coming over with our President Alice signing the reciprocal recognition agreement with a few of those PIs. It's more correctly to be said as a renewal. It's not a new RRA, it's a renewal of the ongoing RRA. So that shows the kind of solidarity and collaboration among professional institutions between UK and Hong Kong. And we still have, well, the panel is given a duration of 30 minutes. We still have 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Or to be exact, now it's less. Okay, the gentleman on the left in black dress, okay, and followed by the one in brown. Yeah, thank you.
It just strikes me, we've got thank you. We've got CCTV technology now that can recognise the way you walk. If you've been through King's Cross, it's been applied to you. We've got CCTV technology that can track people crossing lines. Why don't we put that over an escalator to discover abnormal events? If you've ever seen people having trouble getting off an escalator and how frightening that is, how are you going to get pile-up? Why not roll that out? Thank you.
I assume that was aimed at me, Chris. I said, I assume that was aimed at me.
It just suddenly was an idea.
Yeah. Well, can I answer that? Yeah.
Please.
I am involved in research at the moment into exactly that. We do have an issue though. So if I could recognise someone sitting on a handrail and then stop the handrail and take away the risk, my problem is, how do I stop that escalator? Because most escalators at the moment, you stop them and they stop on a sixpence. They rely on the friction brake to stop. May have 100 other people on that escalator. Yeah, I've then got the risk of them losing their balance because they're on their mobile phones, they're not holding the handrail. So it's going to have to be a multiple input thing. It can't just recognise one person sitting on a handrail going, oh, that's a problem, we'll stop. It's got to go, what's going on with everyone else? If I stop this escalator now, yeah, will that person fall over the side, and maybe fall into a void? Is there someone on there with a pushchair and the baby might fall out of the pushchair? There's a whole variety of things. But Chris, you're absolutely right, and we are.
It's the same as the brakes on buses and coaches have
to
be limited, but you could decelerate it and minimise.
So then the next problem we have is escalators in this country, or escalators around the world, generally outlive standards. A person sitting very close to you will have a portfolio of escalators that were designed probably 3 or 4 standards ago, yeah, and don't have the safety features, don't have the energy saving features of the modern day. So a lot of escalators don't have the variable frequency drives that bring them to a stop. That future will come, and you're absolutely right, there should be situations where we go, actually, we'll ramp down. But if you think about the stupidity of it, most escalators are stopped at night by pushing the emergency stop button. What that means is the brake gets worn out. And eventually we have a maintenance issue. And I've already explained, we've got people that can't maintain. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is where we need to get the right training in place. Certainly in my industry, we need to get the right training in place and get the right education and skills there.
Hello. Hi, gentlemen. Firstly, can I thank you for what has been really, really insightful today. I have learnt tons, and I will be going away at weekends researching lots more so I can apply it where I work. So, as Dave said, I work for the railway, not Network Rail, but the Department for Transport side. I'm responsible for all building services across an entire railway. So I might try that next year, by the way, because we're replacing Fenchurch. The elephant in the room. I want to talk about the elephant in the room. Not a week goes by where I'm called in to do a rescue on a project or go in and sort it out because I'm the seasoned engineer with a balanced view on stuff, finance, risk, safety, engineering logic, standards, all the stuff that good engineers should be taught to be balanced. What I find is every week I say we have a skills crisis. Where are my engineers? Now, I'm an engineer, I'm a head of, I have 12 apprentices in my supply chain, I've got 2 postgraduates, I'm doing my bit. But I still sit and go, let's talk about it at corporate levels, what are we doing to upskill people? Because it's great that BBC have got these reports, but I can tell you now after 30 years, I'm not seeing people coming through, I'm seeing more leaving that are coming through because they want to be influencers or YouTubers or Instagrammers or whatever. And this is a super exciting field if you care about what you can do. And I've always said to people, if you want to be a good engineer, you need 2 things. Be able to read and give a damn. If you've got that, you can be a great engineer, because engineers solve problems and we fix things. The term engineer is very wide, but I always thought the elephant in the room was a skills crisis. I don't think it is. It's what driving the skills crisis. And I'd like your view on what drives that, because for me, I'm going to say this out loud, and forgive me, anyone in the room, finance stifles innovation, stifles creativity, because they're scared that if their balance sheet doesn't add up, they can't get the innovation. And these are the people that say value and click their heels together 3 times while actually undermining the value. And what I've seen today from you, sir, has inspired me to want to move to Hong Kong. It was fantastic. It's great. I am going to be going back to work so enthused. But I would like to know, what is your view on the elephant in the room that is stopping more engineers coming through? So thank you.
Maybe, I'm sure others would have a few words to say on this, but it's an amazing question. My answer is, particularly here in the UK, and reflecting back on the Project 13 initiative that the Institution of Civil Engineers ran with for a number of years, the supply chain in this market is a taker, right? The tender comes out, they price it as low as they can because the buyers tend to buy at the cheapest possible price. That is the fundamental problem. And it means that this industry, through its supply chain, has not invested for decades in skills, in the technologies that you were talking about, Michael. For the most part, it has not invested. And it will never invest until the biggest buyers of infrastructure on a repeat basis, which includes, of course, Her Majesty's government and all the big utilities, until they create partnerships through the supply chains that create the certainty of demand, that create the certainty of the future pipeline, that give that supply chain the confidence to invest in the skills.
Thank you, Richard. Michael, you want to say something?
Yes, when we talk about the innovations and technologies, it never comes overnight, right? So what we need to do is particularly for the governments to invest in Hong Kong. We go through 3 steps. Okay, the first step is we invest in the basic R&D. And if we pass this stage, and then we consider that there are rooms, that there are potential for this and wider application, then we move on to the applied R&D phase. And at that phase, we will the government is prepared to invest, to pay for carrying out some pilot work to test it out on the site, actually. And if it also pass that stage, then we move on to the final stage, is wider applications in the industry. So I believe there's a hope, and not just in Hong Kong, but everywhere around the world, we also adopt this mindset, basic R&D, apply R&D, and then full applications and wider application in the industry. So we've got the governments need to invest, in the R&D.
Yes, Sam.
So thank you. I guess I probably have to say this is a personal perspective in case Ed shoots me for presenting an IET position that doesn't exist. But but I would see this as if you think of this as a system and you think about where the interventions are needed in the system to create change. We don't do that. We pick off a bit, the government does a skills study, or someone sets up an apprenticeship scheme, or whatever it is. But you can point to all sorts of places along people's journeys as to why it's not happening. So part of it is around school curriculum, for example. Part of it is around how teachers are trained. Part of it is around how a lot of schools don't have a decent physics teacher. Part of it is then around the university courses being shaped by market forces of student choice rather than something perhaps a little more strategic. And you can start to unpick the problem in a very, very logical way, but nobody owns the whole problem. And in a way, it's like the stuff I was talking about around a systems architect. If you had something rather more coordinated for the skills system as a whole, you would, I think, have a better chance.
Yeah, right? James, you want to?
Yeah, if you don't mind,
please.
I completely agree with you. And our number one request in our response to the industrial strategy consultation was a national engineering workforce strategy. And you're right, there's so many different drop-offs. I mean, almost all primary school age children could be an engineer. They're so creative, and they've got all sorts of skills and natural attributes that almost taught out of them through the curriculum. And then there's different drop-offs all the way through. All my friends at university who studied engineering, virtually none of them are engineers because they've had their head turns to go and do other really exciting things, VCs and all sorts of things, and understanding the technology. So there's all sorts of different ways that you could fall out the system. And we need to have this holistic approach. Skills is always tricky, and it's tricky in the UK. We've just moved Skills England over to DWP, Department for Work and Pensions. And if you think about the engineering workforce, there's the stock, the engineers, and there's the flow, the new engineers. And that feels more like a question about stock rather than flow, which is Department for Education. So this is a complex landscape. It's not fixed overnight. I mean, we probably have a whole conference on your question, but maybe a topic for future conference.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. Indeed, we have a very strong reactions from the floor, and we are fortunate enough to have time left to entertain a few questions. But not, two more. So is there any time allowed? Sorry about that, I'm sorry. But don't worry, because the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers is always coming back to London every year, okay? Or when our counterparts in London are trying to organize seminars, conferences, we can also participate online, right? But together today we have representatives from the IMAE, ICE, the SIPS, and IET. Of course, the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers too. Is a very strong lineup, a show of force, if not collaboration. Well, certainly it's a concerted effort, right? And therefore, for the interest of time, I must apologize for not being able to entertain more questions. But you might be able to pick on individual speakers or panelists to share further thoughts while we are on the way out, okay? Is that fine? If not, then we'll see you some other time then. Thank you very much. Let's give an applause to the 5 speakers.